Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Journey podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and as you all know, this is the space where we explore what it actually means to live well, not just in theory, but in real life. With all its beauty, contradictions, burnout, joy, and unfinished edges. Now, today's conversation is about something we hear a lot in the wellness world, but we rarely slow down to question deeply. The idea of sparkle, joy, awe, elevation. My guest today, Hayley Hunter Hines, is a globally recognized wellness futurist, luxury experience architect, and she's also the founder of Soul Sparkle Living. Well, she spent over 3 decades working across holistic health, corporate wellness, and now she works in the immersive environments that beautifully blends science, design, and soul. And let me tell you, listeners, she is the creator of the Sparkle Framework, which is a 5D evolution of the traditional biopsychosocial spiritual model, adding what she calls sparkle. We'll definitely explore that in the conversation. But then it emphasizes on the awe, beauty, and the joy essential to a life well lived. But then here's what, listeners, I want to ground us before we begin. Sparkle can sound aspirational, even elusive, and mindfulness at its core often asks us to stay with discomfort rather than decorated. So today's conversation is not about selling joy or bypassing the hard reality out there. It is about questioning how sparkle fits into real human lives, leadership, grief, burnout, and systems that do not always support well being. So, Haley, welcome to the Mindful Journey. And as always, it is an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Okay, Haley, let's start with the origins of the Sparkle Framework because I am personally very, very intrigued, very curious, like how it all started for you because you spent years in corporate wellness and holistic consulting. So, um, what kind of gaps you saw, or maybe what was missing for you in the existing well-being models that made you feel something fundamentally new needed to be named or created?
So I think, when you're in a space for such a long time, you see it grow up, right? And so for me, when I started in the field of wellness and consulting in that space, it was very, very focused on the biomedical model. So the concern was around your blood pressure, your body fat, your BMI, etc. Was very focused on nutrition and exercise. Like really that was the beginning of when we started to talk about this idea of keeping employees healthy. And so we focused on that. And then over time, it became very clear that there were other things that actually were driving those risk factors. So in that vernacular, you talk about, your body fat, your BMI, blood pressure, those were risk factors if they're elevated. And so we started to see where, stress and anxiety and other elements were actually contributing to those numbers being elevated. It wasn't just about what you were eating or what you were exercising, if you were or were not, but it was the why, right? It was what was going on in your life that were impacting those numbers. So we kind of then expanded into this psychological risk cluster, and it was depression, anxiety, and stress management. And then it became very apparent that there was also a social aspect because the research came out that was saying that social isolation is actually worse for you than smoking. So if you live alone, if you don't have deep connections or intimate, like any kind of relationships, close relationships, you are at higher risk than if you were a smoker, which was shocking at the time. That was like, wow, that's so crazy. But didn't realize how important those social relationships were. So you can see where it all kind of comes together. And then we added this spiritual piece when we realized that those people and individuals that had a deep spiritual connection whether it be through meditation, prayer, some type of spiritual practice,
Mm-hmm.
had better health outcomes than those that didn't.
Hmm.
So it all kind of came together that way over years. And then what I realized though is that there's a whole other level of life experience that we can have when we believe in the possibility of magic, when we believe in miracles, when we believe and step into this idea that there is so much more life available to us when we experience moments of beauty, moments that move us to tears, right? Things that move us in a way that maybe we haven't paid attention to before. So that's where, art and beauty and nature and all these other ways of experiencing life, when you layer that on to all the other pieces of a healthier lifestyle, yes, you're moving. Yes, you're eating well. And yes, you're connected. But when you stay open to this possibility, which is what I call the sparkle, like soul sparkle living, is it becomes a way of life because you're looking for those moments of magic. You're looking for the moments of awe and wonder and whimsy, if you will, like you're a child again. And I think that is what actually sets kind of what I would say a more regular way of doing life into a more magical way of doing life.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I think this is very, very much relatable because um one, actually I have two kind of, points here to make. That first is like, most people, like, we try to change everything at once. But then I think, what I realized, like how you described is more like an honest sequence, like one small shift that exposed what needed to change next. And then there has been a huge shift as well, especially like as you mentioned about the social isolation. I think um during COVID and post COVID, I mean, I'm not discounting, the horrors that the entire humanity had to endure. However, I think now people in even countries and societies in countries like India, where there was not even an iota of discussion around mental health. I mean, in fact, if I recall, never ever studied about mental health in my school or college. We never used to have any discussions. In fact, in my family as well, with my sister, I never have had discussions around mental health. But especially during COVID and post COVID, we started to at least, give importance to mental health or holistic wellness, in a better way. That there's something called as depression, there is something called as anxiety, there is something called as burnout. Otherwise, it's just especially in the Indian, houses. I'm not, offending anyone, but just a quick tight scold and that's it. You are done. You have to do this, or otherwise, you're going to get punished. So yeah, if you are enjoying the mindful journey, take 2 seconds to follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. It helps the show reach more people who need a softer, steadier space to land. And if he can leave a quick review, it seriously make a difference. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
And I think too that that 2020 changed us and it rewired us and not in a good way, right? So what happened is we realized during that time, okay, well, we're being told to do XYZ, whatever it is. And those behaviors became the new way of being. So some people are still social distancing, even though, first of all, we didn't need to, but whatever. But they're still doing it, even though we don't have to anymore, if that makes sense, right? They're still distancing themselves physically when we need to be in proximity to each other. It's how we regulate our nervous systems, right? It's habit and a paradigm that shifted us out of being social. And so I think to your point, it's like we need to get back to how it was before and even a deepening of that, I think, and being able to spend time with people and be like, heart to heart, belly to belly. Like hug people. Like that's how we thrive when we are connected. And so, yeah, it's interesting how over time the conversations have shifted, and I think again the importance of focusing on social well-being. And I think in 2026, I'm seeing the trend is that is where more of the well-being culture, if you will, and offerings and philosophy is shifting. It's the revelation that socialization in a healthy way is the primary indicator for well-being over time.
Mm, mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's providing us a different lens altogether to look at the existing problems or the challenges.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, Haley, also, like, growing up, I'm once again personally curious, like, growing up, what were you taught about rest, achievement, being productive? Like, how did that shape the way you worked in corporate wellness for so long? Because if I can share about myself, as I mentioned, never taught about mental wellness. It was always like a defined very, very clearly defined template that, good grades, good degree, get a job, get married, settle down, perfectly performing all your duties, especially as a woman. Um, like, when did you start questioning those beliefs?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, uh, fairly early on. I mean, I'm one that I had a job lined up before I turned 16. I've worked every day since, like I was very, very responsible, very
Okay.
always did the right thing. Worked my way up the corporate ladder with one job, at least one job, if not two. Like really went down that path. Um, Only to realize that if you're working toward someone else's dream and you're sacrificing your own, is that really well-being? Is that really thriving? Is that really success? No, actually, it's probably not. So, um, basically what I did is I, worked my way all the way to the top, very, very top of the industry in that corporate wellness field. And at some point I was like, what am I doing? And why don't I really be honest with myself on what I want to do and how I want to live my own life? Like, I'm the boss of me. I'm a sovereign being. I'm old enough now to where I can do whatever I want. Why don't I just go for it? And that's when I actually did a massive life transformational change and started my own business and started traveling and speaking and teaching and facilitating transformational events around the world. And now that's been the last 10 years, right? So I think there's a there's a moment in all of our lives, and I would love for your listeners to do it faster than I did, maybe. And that is to realize that we are here for a limited amount of time, and or that we outsource our, decisions and that we're taught to outsource, really, if you think about it. Like for affection, approval, validation, appreciation, we seek that outside of ourselves when really we can find that within us if we just listen to our own intuition and say yes to the calling when we hear it of this is the divine invitation. This is the calling. This is the gift that I'm giving. And the sooner that we can get on that path and stop listening to everyone else around us, the more freedom, fulfillment, joy, and impact I think we make. And then we stop wasting time doing all these other things that we don't actually really want to do.
Mm, yeah.
That's my sweet.
No, no, you're absolutely right. And I can actually, I 100% agree with this. I mean, some people would call it maybe too much individualistic or selfish. Leave that about. But then something that I've learned the hard way is, uh, you know, this inner work that we should do to filter out the noises and absorb what is useful for us. Because
Great.
it's TMI. It's too much information. It's too many. Um, yeah, we can definitely we should hear opinions out there, not dismiss. But then, uh, you know, I think I personally, I always used to say yes or agree with everyone. Oh, you are right. You are right. You are right. And then at the end of the day, I'm like confused. What exactly do I want? What exactly should I do? And I think that is such a sometimes such a difficult place to be in as a person.
Well, I think until you can really listen to the internal voice, you are at the mercy of everyone else that's in your life that on their agenda for you. What do they want for you? What does your family want for you? What does your community expect of you? And I think that's a real coming of age experience. And it's almost like the older you get, the more you're like, I actually don't care anymore what other people think. And it's a beautiful, like, revelation, actually. But what if we could get that same level of freedom and liberation younger, younger, and younger, right? So that's a very cultural, it's a very familial, it's a very community based, societal based experience. And again, depending on where you've grown up in the world, it's very unique and very different. But let me just say that, you know, no one has to live in your house or walk in your shoes except for you, right? And so no one actually really knows what's best for you.
Mm,
But
right.
you.
And I think that is something that, I'm not romanticizing, but that is something that I'm seeing in the present generations. I mean, the present generation is, kind of on the verge of facing the grim realities, whether it's climate change, financial challenges, geopolitical tensions, something that, older generations have had seen. Uh, Not fear mongering listeners, but, yeah, that it is what it is. The world wars and all the stuff. Um, and I'm seeing this, I'm observing this clarity, which I'm really finding it very surprising and very having that appreciation for the younger, generations. Because as a millennial, um, I think, all of us millennials had to kind of, fight through that dilemma of whether I should listen to what other people are telling or whether I should listen to myself. I think we walked so that the younger generations can run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I'm even a what am I? One or two generations. I'm Gen X, so
Oh,
it's very interesting to see the difference in how we were raised versus maybe your generation and how I actually feel like what's next is inter and intragenerational, right? Like I don't think we will continue to divide ourselves in the way that we have in the past. That's just my gut. And I think that we will come together in a way that feels more aligned energetically versus generationally.
absolutely. Absolutely. Ah, superb. And you also spent decades helping others feel better. Um, and I mean, honestly, it can sometimes, feel very exhausting, Haley. Because it it's not just a job. It's kind of your purpose, your vision. Uh, it's something like um, that feeling that as a caregiver we have. Um, Sometimes it can also lead to burnout or feeling that exhaustion as well. Sometimes if things go wrong, we once again we judge ourselves. Um, what was happening in your own body and life during the years you were supporting everyone else, Haley?
Well, I think, at that point, it was showing up at the office an hour or two before everyone got there so I could actually get my work done because I knew once everyone arrived, it was going to be crazy. It was nonstop during the day. And it really took most of my energy. to maintain that level of success in my work life at the expense of my personal life. So
Mm,
it came where, yes, I felt impactful and I was helping, you know, hundreds of thousands of employees around the world um, become healthier. But was I healthier? Was my well being prioritized? I mean, I'm the wellness girl and I'm not in my own healthiest place. Like, didn't have time for a lot of relationships. So, what I realized is that I needed to make a major change because if I'm not embodying what I'm teaching and preaching, then I'm completely out of alignment, right? And I had to realize what was in my list of priorities, and it was friends and relationships and community and service, and I didn't have the capacity at the time to give back or be part of any kind of philanthropy because I was working all the time. So I think it becomes a conversation with yourself and your higher self, right? The division within you where you say, is this in the highest and best of me right now? And sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes we're in building stages and phases. And then at some point you get to the place where you say, and now I want to build a family or I want to build something else that is maybe not always work focused and work related, right? And so it's it's making those brave decisions and choosing maybe a different way that you want to show up. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy to walk away from what you've built, but at the same time, trusting that whatever's on the other side will be an absolute blessing, not only to yourself, but those then that are going to be in your life because you'll have so much more time and love and energy and light to share with them.
sure. Exactly. And any specific, practice that you used that you would recommend, um others, that um to actually kind of get back to who exactly we are, maybe on days when you don't feel sparkly,
Yeah.
like, what actually works for you when you are tired, overwhelmed, or disconnected, that you would recommend to others as well. Something that I can also take away with me.
Yeah. So I would say there's a couple of things. Uh, One is, well, first, understanding what it is that shifts your state, right? So is it going for a long walk in nature? Is it being quiet, still, meditating, praying, like whatever the thing is, right? That's going to allow you to be still and know, like get a better sense of what's true for you. Is it maybe it's being in water, near water? Anything that's going to really soothe your spirit and ground you and calm you, right? So regulate your nervous system, grounded, calm. And it's from that place that you ask the question, am I exactly where I need to be right now? Is there anything else I need to be doing that could be of higher benefit and higher service? Is there anyone that I need to reach out to or connect with that would allow me to step into more of my higher self, higher service, higher calling? So those are just some really simple questions you can start, like this internal inquiry around, what do I need to know right now? Am I exactly where I need to be right now? Is there anyone else that I need to connect with right now? What else do I need to be doing right now? And asking for the guidance to be given for the next available step. Because that's really all we need to know is like, what's the next step? I don't need to know 2 months, 6 months, 2 years. I need to know today, right here, right now. What's the next thing? And the next thing. And then just continue to follow the breadcrumbs. Because at that point, then you'll be so in alignment that even if you do start to waffle or waver or feel disconnected, you'll be drawn back to what is in the highest and best for you if you continually seek that path.
Well, I think that's exactly what is mindfulness, because um uh, sometimes, we kind of try to run away from facing that dilemma within us. that, that confusion. Should I do this? Should I do that? And we just try to sleep on it or kind of run away from it. I'll think about it later.
Yeah.
'Cause it's too tough for me.
Well, and that's where social media, television, alcohol, like whatever it is, you can numb out and disconnect. I would say stay connected, lean in, listen, and you'll know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amazing. Thank you for that. And Haley, yeah, if as a ritual, if listeners, they would like to further connect with you, seek more wisdom from you, explore more around the sparkle framework, and share their thoughts, what would be the easiest way?
So you can always find me at my website. It's soulsparkleliving.com. That's kind of my online home. And then also on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, etc. Most of the time it's either Soul Sparkle or it's my full name, Hayley Hunter Hines.
Amazing. Amazing. So there you go, listeners. I'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes. So just find all the details attached along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And as we wrap up, I think I feel what stands out to me about this conversation is that, the sparkle, it's not about glossing life, it is about remembering our capacity to feel, to notice, to belong inside our own bodies and environments. So, for anyone listening who feels tired of wellness trends that promise too much but deliver too little, this conversation offers something quieter. It's an invitation to question how spaces, rituals, and leadership shapes who we become. So, Haley, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your experiences. Thank you for being so candid and open.
Thanks for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Absolutely. And listeners, thank you for walking this mindful journey with us. If this episode stirred something within you, it's let that be enough for today. You do not need to fix or optimize it. Just notice it. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and keep listening to the mindful journey. Thank you.